was like, oh, we're live. Okay.
Usually we wait a minute before it actually goes on live. But happy to see y'all here. It's week 5
Week 5.
of the Theology of Hip-Hop, and this is the after show, the recap. It's not that it's a show, but it's a recap.
A little bit of a show.
A little bit of a show.
We'll watch it.
But a recap of the episode on Ka.
hmm
Now, who I did not know
Right.
of prior to this episode. So tell us how you became familiar with Ka.
Yeah, I feel like I first saw Ka's name on a blog. So now it's referred to in the hip hop community as like the blog era, which was kind of like 2006, 7. Oh God, what have I done? What have I done?
No, 2006.
um, up until probably like 2013, 14. Um, and that was when a lot of the rappers who we know today, so Drake, Kendrick, J. Cole, ASAP Rocky, rappers like that. I think I first heard like Lil Wayne's a Millie
Yeah.
on a blog post, and I feel like Ka, who also went by Brownsville Ka, was one of those rappers. I used to be a frequent visitor to nowright.com specifically, and so you remember me being on the Nowright
So much all the time.
and so
You hadn't heard that in a minute.
it's been a while. It's been a long time. I don't even know if the website's still up anymore. But at any rate, Ka, or Brownsville Ka, as he sometimes went by, was one of those artists that were on there. And you just saw all these like really brilliant songs from him over the years. But I never really got into his music super duper heavy at the time. He kind of just like on rotation for me. But I just remember it all came flooding back to me in 2024 when he passed. I was like, oh my gosh, I hadn't heard that name in a long time. And he had just released the album that year before he passed called The Thief on the Cross Next to Jesus. And listen to that album just no pun intended, religiously, and just re-fell in love with his music all over again. So when it came back up to do this year, I was like, I have to include Cobb because I mean it can't get more on the nose than they're talking about his music in this theological way.
Right. Now, every episode, there is a person who is a fan who tells about why they think this artist is a theologian or talks about why they love this artist. So tell us about the person who spoke at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, so beginning this episode, I had my brother, rap nerd Talib, speak about Ka. I was looking for something because I at one point was like, I need to just do this intro myself. And I was so glad when Lee agreed to do it because I really respect. I mean, this brother makes incredible playlists about hip hop, like a true historian, archivist. Nothing but love and respect for the work that Lee does in preserving the culture and really talking about hip hop as an art form. So often now, fans of rap talk about it like they own a record label. They're like, "Well, how many sales did it have?" And like, that's not important, especially in the time of streaming. Like,
Yeah.
who's making money from selling music? But he is someone whose voice I truly respect when it comes to talking about the art form. And so having him talk about Ka at the beginning of it, and you heard him give you that sort of history lesson himself, this was really special to me. So I was so glad and so appreciative that he could be on this episode.
Something you spoke about in this episode, you talked about Ka and his rap lyrics talking about, I think there's one line that says, peace be with you. And the other,
Like, walaikum salam.
yes.
That the peace on you in your
Yeah,
palm.
right.
Yes, what a bar.
And he talks about, and a lot of this conversation is going to be about how we as people, as a society, as Christians treat those who are in prison.
Yeah.
What does it say to you about, there's parts of the gospel that said we got to minister to the prisoner,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
but there aren't, in this, at least this example, there isn't a mention of one's Christian faith being strengthened.
Sure.
What aren't we doing what should we be doing to minister to folks in prisons?
Yeah, I think I've seen it firsthand, right? Where um in a lot of neighborhoods, I think I don't know what the percentage is. I don't wanna pretend to have, like, Pew Research just
Mm,
in it's buried in my head, but I know that the, assumption is that Christianity is, a religion that's mostly if you go to a lot of churches, particularly in neighborhoods like
mhm,
Brownsville, Ocean Hill, you're seeing mostly women in that
mm,
church. Like, the only man in the church might be the pastor,
mhm,
right? And so you have, this understanding of, like, there's no space for men
mm,
in churches,
mhm.
right? Unless they're the pastor, and the pastor, is viewed as a shady person who's taking advantage of those, people at church.
Right.
I think Islam has been a very grounding religion and faith
Mhm,
for a lot of black men for a variety of reasons, but
mhm.
particularly thinking about those who have been incarcerated. It's such a disciplined faith,
Yeah.
particularly comparing it to like Western Christianity, where you have to be strict about abstaining from certain foods.
Mhm.
You have to be strict about how often you pray,
Right.
how you just move through the world. It's very discipline oriented. And I can see how that's attractive,
Mhm.
particularly to men who are trying to turn their lives around.
Right.
And I think that Christianity in the West, I don't like to talk about it in terms of like ceding ground because I don't want to use like Christian nationalist language at all. But I do think that we have to take Matthew 25 seriously.
Mhm.
I don't see it as an option
No.
to do prison ministry. I
Mm,
see it as essential. I don't see it as an option to do ministry with returning citizens. It is at the core of the gospel to be a part of people's redemption story, to be a part of people turning their lives around and loving people back to life. And so I think um, Christianity has to find a way to present a healthy masculinity
yep.
to brothers. And I think there are obviously success stories. I do work with returning citizens and know plenty of brothers who are on fire for Christ and love the Lord fully. Um, and came to know him while they were incarcerated, came to know him after the fact, whatever the case may be. But I do think that there still is a sense of where is my space as a man in church. I think that's a conversation just across the board, but particularly hyper focusing on folks who, walk that line between freedom and incarceration.
Mhm. So, a lot of Kai's work talks about this desire for a rest. Like, you can really has weariness. It reminds me a lot of the Psalms,
Hmm.
um, where it's just like folks are suffering.
Yeah.
Um, folks are in need of a rest, of
Hmm.
peace. So, we're talking about Advent, like you said in the episode this past week was about peace.
Yeah.
Talk more about um, what the gospel has to say for folks like Kyle who are just exhausted and feel like there's no peace.
Yeah. I think it's a really good word to tell people who've been oppressed.
Mm,
And if we boil it down at its core, like the gospel is good news for the poor. It's
mhm,
good news for the broken heart. It's good news for
mhm,
those who this world has tried to crush and to squeeze.
mhm,
And to tell folks that God has a rest for you, that
mm,
there remains a rest for the people of God, as Hebrews 4
mhm,
talks about, I think is a really good word.
mhm.
And I think is a very essential word because like the ghetto by design is exhausting.
Yeah,
Like you're working so hard to survive. And if you manage to squeeze out some flourishing, it's gonna be considered illegal. It pushes you out.
right.
Like I've had coworkers who've had to turn down, increase in pay because they would no longer qualify to live in public housing. And people may look at that and scoff, but it's like, but this is your community. What are they gonna do in this new community when this is like where they grew up? And so I think being able to talk about peace really resonates with just the exhaustion above
Mhm,
all else that under-resourced communities um are forced to create as an environment for people.
mhm. Yeah. And a form of Kyle also talks about apologizing, and I think apologizing is a form of peacemaking.
Mhm.
And many times people think of forgiveness as one-sided, right?
Right.
Like, you're wrong, so you need to come to me.
No doubt.
But I think in the humility of Ka is that he is the one apologizing, and that forgiveness is central to the gospel.
Yeah.
What about Ka's? Ka's model is commendable, and what else would you recommend in terms of forgiveness as a form of peacemaking?
I mean, you can hear the maturity.
Mm.
He There's a lot of talk in hip hop, especially with the success of like Clips this year
Mhm.
and the work that Nas has been doing over the last few years. I'd go back to like even Jay-Z's 444, some of what
Mhm.
Scarface has done. It goes on and on. But basically like grown man rap is what people
Right.
think about. Like Fontaine does this. Um, I think Ka is right in that number. You can hear the maturity.
Mhm.
You can hear someone who's reflecting, and there's grief there, right? You like you reflect, and we've all had this to some extent. You think about something you did when you were younger, it's like, oh, why did I say that to
Right.
that person? Why did I do that? But he is really processing and just demonstrating that sort of humility in terms of saying, like, you know what? I see the error of my ways, and I'm trying to turn around.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that is extremely commendable. It's nothing that, like, I wanna, like, wag a finger at, but I just
Right.
think it just reflects just the, limitation of human beings in that it
Right.
is very difficult
Right.
to carry all of that.
Yeah.
And there's ways in which we make mistakes. Like I talk about, the vengeance that he still wants to carry out,
Mhm.
seeing and reflecting on his friends being taken from him. And it's convenient for me to be like, oh, the vengeance is mine, says the Lord. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want you to be consumed by hatred. It's something I think about a lot and I've written about a lot through an abolitionist lens is a way in which, borrowing this from Howard Thurman, the ways in which grief and hatred have this relationship with each other,
Mhm.
right? That if we don't take care of hatred, if we don't stop hatred, you're laying the groundwork for grief. And if you don't take care of grief, if you just allow grief to fester, it gives birth to hatred. And so they continue to just
Mhm.
feed each other.
Mhm.
And I think it's something that we have to be not just mindful of, but the whole community has to work collectively to make sure that we're not allowing grief or hatred to thrive.
Mhm. I wanna hop back to the prison industrial complex. Um, I think that how we treat those who are in prison really shows how much we don't forgive.
Yeah.
And I know the prison industrial complex makes um those who are wealthy more wealthy because they own those private
Right.
prisons when
Right.
they're
Right.
full and thriving in that sense.
From a business sense, yes.
Um
From a business sense, right.
But I also think the lack of programming and opportunity for those who are in prison to do better once they've are reintroduced to society, um, is a example of how we think that they are permanently marked.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they can't be um, actually fully reintroduced as their selves,
Yes.
as how God would see them. So how do we help with God's help? How do we help individuals reenter society, also hold violent criminals accountable,
Yes.
and protect the innocent?
Yes, I think it's a variety of things, right? Like, I'm always thinking, and always forever shout out to like Mary Wright Edelman, who,
Mhm.
whose work helps me to think about going upstream, right?
Mhm.
It's very easy, and the way that we often deal with it, the way that we get to a point where you just treat people as if they're truly irredeemable, is that you look at the persons commit crimes as sort of like the cause and the effect.
Mhm.
And we never go upstream and say, what resources was this person not afforded? Right? Because it's very easy to just think of everyone who's in prison as some cold blooded criminal, some sort of sociopath without feelings and emotions. But if you actually deal with people,
Right.
you see that that is not the case, right? Are there people who are completely unrepentant of it, who, if you let them out, they would just do whatever to destroy people again? Of course. Are they the majority of it? I would argue no, right?
Mhm.
And so I think when we deal with the ways in which proper resourcing of communities
Mhm.
can be the number one reducer of crime,
Yeah.
right? So I often will joke and say, Batman would have done a lot more if he had just created Head Starts and after school programs in Gotham, right?
Mhm.
I think that there are so many opportunities for us to stop crime that have nothing to do with arresting people, that have nothing to do with sentencing people for long sentences or any sentence at all,
Mhm.
but have to do with educational opportunities, economic opportunities,
Mhm.
nutritional opportunities,
Yep.
ways in which we can help people overcome addiction. I
Mhm.
think all of those things can help meet and mitigate uh, our criminality. And of course, for folks who are actually in the throes of criminality, what sort of resources do they need mental health wise? It's not a natural feeling to just want to hurt people and not be apologetic about it. That comes from somewhere. That
Mhm.
person is not just inherently evil,
Mm-mm.
you know? Because if we're saying that, if we're saying people are just inherently evil, what are we saying about Imago Dei? We're saying if you're telling me that someone has no good in them at all, but I know that all of us have the image of God on us. Those things can't
Mm-mm.
reconcile or
No.
be reconciled. And I'm not saying it's an easy fix. I'm not viewing this through rose-colored lenses,
No.
but I'm saying that in the same way we are so quick in our own bloodlust that we as a society have to confess, we are so quick to throw people away and eliminate people. What would it look like if we put those resources toward restoring people rather than destroying people?
Yeah. I completely agree. All this is with God's help.
All of it's with God help. Like there's no like go buy my book 10 Easy
Yeah.
Steps to Abolition Practices. It's really all of this is through frankly prayer and fasting,
Yep.
you know?
No. Tell us about turning the other cheek in the biblical sense and what Calm may have had to say about that.
Yeah, so he talked about it in terms of saying he wasn't gonna turn the other cheek. And it just made me think about how there's so many ways in which we going back to the understanding of Christianity is like not masculine enough. We think that following the gospel is somehow soft or it's just like a coward's way out. But something I learned, I need to find the source. So I'm not just saying I heard one time,
Mhm.
but essentially in those times and contexts, Roman soldiers would just straight backhand people, right? They weren't dealing with you on some like slapping an equal. It was just all backhand, right? So if you were to turn your cheek and someone was trying to backhand you, they obviously could not backhand you in the same way. So by turning your cheek, now you're forcing them to deal with you as an equal.
Mm.
So someone that they want to violate and disrespect by backhanding to slap you the way that they would have to slap an equal would now just be an offense to them. It's like, I don't want to treat you as an equal. I
Yeah.
don't respect you. And
Mhm.
so now you've put them in a conundrum. So that was something that I thought about when the lyric came up about turning the other cheek.
Yeah. You talk a lot about, or toward the end, you talk about calling in versus calling out.
Mhm.
And I want to shout out to Loretta Ross,
Always.
one of the um, leaders and the founders of the reproductive health movement. Her new book is about calling in.
Mhm.
So talk more about that.
Yeah, I think that it even connects back to Abraham Lincoln quote that I love, where he talks about destroying his enemies by making them friends.
Mm.
Because it's very easy, especially when stakes are high and tensions are fierce,
Hmm.
to just want to destroy your enemy, right? So I don't want to make you a part of us again. I want to show how much you are not a part of us, that,
Hmm.
that you're not like us, and that you need to be destroyed essentially. You can't
Hmm.
come around here, your opinion is not valid anymore, this, that, and the third. And I think that calling in does the opposite of that because it allows a person, yes, to be held accountable, right?
Hmm.
We're not talking about a lack of accountability. We're saying, hey, what you're doing is not okay. And allowing that person the opportunity to see that and to say, hey, we want you back to be a part of us, but this is what you got to do,
Hmm.
right? And in the song, where Kai is just, and I could picture it so well because he uses such great imagery. These kids who feel so tough, who feel so grown, and feel like they can just disrespect anybody and bully anybody. And he's like, you've picked the wrong one today. Or maybe you picked the right one because I'm really going to help you understand how to turn it around. And I love that that song ends with him being like, yo, which one of y'all threw it? Right? Somebody kicks a bottle at him and it
Hmm.
like is disrespectful to him. He's like, I'm not going to just be quiet and let y'all just treat people any old way.
Mm.
I'm really using restraint because I know what I could do, but I'm not going to do that. But you can't operate this way. And I think in that same way, we have to have a calling in that doesn't just allow injustice and bullying and all these ways in which we break um, society and break our social contract with each other to persist. Where there has to be an accountability that allows you to rejoin the group and to be redeemed. But we can't just redemption can't happen without turning around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, so this is a wonderful week. I love this episode. It was so rich. Going on a little break. Um, and anything you like to say
About the next one?
or about the next one, or just yeah.
Yeah, I think well, these first 5 episodes, I hope you've all enjoyed them as much as I've enjoyed
Mhm.
making them. It's really just been great. I was at a meeting earlier today and I was talking to someone who had listened to the DMX episode. They're like, "I'm only on episode 1." I was like, "Take your time. Like they're gonna be there." And they're a minister and they're talking about how it's allowing them to converse with someone in their congregation who loves DMX and doesn't always feel included in theological conversations. So being able to now to talk about DMX theologically with them is going to be something really special. So I'm glad it's giving folks tools that they can use in their communities. Um, I just love this culture. I love the music so much, and I love doing ministry that creates access to people who feel rejected by it or feel unqualified for it. Because I think that at its core is doing the Lord's work. So
Mhm.
I'm excited about the second half of the season. I think
Yes.
it's going to be more
So
great
good.
episodes. I'm really excited about the artists we have lined up for the second half. Starting off with the royalty, you know what I mean? Like we got a real royal figure coming through to start off the second half of the season. But much love to you all, and thank you all so much for listening and supporting and all that good stuff.
All right. Good night, y'all. Take
Peace.
care.